There are truths that the world was never ready to hear. Ibn Arabi stood before one of them, a mystery that burned brighter than any flame and yet had to remain veiled. Scholars called it dangerous, not because it was false, but because it shattered the illusion of separation. This secret was not written in books, nor spoken in words. It lived in the silence between all things. To reveal it was to unveil the oneness behind creation. The truth that every being, every shadow, every breath is nothing but the reflection of a single, infinite light. There is a truth that no book can contain, no language can name. Words approach it and dissolve like salt in the sea. Ibn Arabi spoke of this truth, not as something to be learned, but to be remembered. A light older than speech, a knowing that breathes behind every thought. When the heart touches it, silence becomes its only expression. The vastness of truth humbles even revelation. It is not confined to scripture nor bound by creed. It moves through all forms, yet belongs to none. To grasp it with intellect is to hold smoke. To surrender to it is to awaken. The real speaks not in sentences, but in being itself. Truth has no edges. It flows, it folds, it expands until every boundary fades. The mystic discovers that seeking is not a journey outward, but a dissolving inward. What we call discovery is simply remembrance, the heart recognizing what it has never ceased to know. Words are the shadows truth casts when it passes through understanding. They are useful, but not final. Ibn Arabi teaches that the danger lies in worshiping the shadows instead of the light that makes them. To hold too tightly to language is to miss the silence from which all meaning is born. The seeker who dares to approach this vastness must unlearn. Every concept becomes a veil, every certainty, a door to be opened and left behind. The real cannot be spoken because it speaks before speech, sees before sight, and loves before love is named. There are moments when truth brushes against the heart like wind across still water. Nothing is said, yet everything is known. Such moments are not captured. They capture you. The soul stands trembling, aware that its smallness was never a mistake but a window to the infinite. The intellect demands structure, but the heart seeks presence. When the two meet, understanding turns to reverence. The truth that cannot be held by words holds them, instead bending meaning, until even paradox feels like prayer. Those who truly encounter the vastness of truth stop arguing about it. They become quiet, as though listening to a music no one else can hear. For them, belief transforms into sight, and sight into awe. The closer they draw, the less they speak. Truth is not hidden because it is distant. It is hidden because it is near. Like air, it surrounds everything yet remains unseen. Only when the heart slows its grasping does it feel the breath of the unseen upon its face. The real reveals itself by degrees, for mercy protects the seeker from too much brilliance. One glimpse can overturn a lifetime of ideas. When this happens, humility becomes the only safe ground. The heart bows, not from fear, but from recognition. To describe the vastness of truth is to betray it. Yet the mystic still speaks, not to explain, but to invite. Every word he utters points beyond itself, like a finger toward the moon. The wise look not at the finger, but at the light it gestures toward. Truth cannot be owned. Those who claim to possess it reveal their distance from it. The real belongs to no one, because it is the essence of all. To awaken to it is to vanish as owner, and to appear as witness, silent, luminous, free. The heart becomes the vessel. Truth chooses for its reflection. Yet the vessel must be emptied to receive. Pride, fear, and certainty are weights that make it opaque. When it becomes clear, even one drop of that infinite sea is enough to illuminate the soul forever. There is a moment when truth stops being a concept and becomes a presence. It is no longer something one believes, but something one breathes. The mystic realizes then that words were never meant to describe it, only to circle it, like moths around flame. Each silence between words is filled with this presence. The real hides not in what is said, but in what remains unsaid. The wise listen to the pauses, knowing that revelation often arrives dressed in quiet. Truth too vast for words is truth too intimate for distance. It does not stand before the seeker. It stands within. Every attempt to reach it ends in recognition that there was nowhere to go, only somewhere to awaken. When the heart glimpses this truth, it feels both shattered and healed. It realizes that every loss, every longing, every confusion was the beloved's handwriting, teaching it how to see. Pain becomes scripture, and joy becomes translation. The vastness of truth cannot be organized, only entered. To live within it is to walk as one who has dissolved the border between self and world. Every sound becomes remembrance, every silence, praise. Truth does not need defenders, it needs witnesses. Those who have tasted it know that even denial serves it, for nothing stands outside its reach. The opposites we fear are but mirrors in which it plays. Ibn Arabi said the real reveals itself according to the measure of the heart. The infinite contracts itself so that love can perceive it. The seeker does not enlarge the truth. The truth enlarges the seeker until there is no seeker left, only awareness. There are no maps for this territory. The landmarks are paradox. The landmarks are paradox. The guide is longing. The destination is disappearance. The mystic walks until walking becomes stillness, and stillness becomes seeing. Truth too vast for words is the secret pulse of existence. It beats within stars and stones, within breath and silence. The one who feels it knows that creation itself is a language written by a hand that never finishes writing. To approach this vastness is to risk transformation. One cannot carry ego into eternity. What you lose along the way is not yours. What remains was never a part. The real strips away illusion with gentleness until only light remains. And when the heart finally surrenders, truth no longer feels vast. It feels familiar. The ocean no longer drowns. It embraces. The seeker dissolves. The mirror clears. And what remains is the simple, infinite awareness that has always been too vast for words, yet nearer than breath. There comes a moment when knowledge grows too heavy for the tongue. What once fit within words begins to overflow, and silence stretches its arms to hold what speech cannot. Ibn Arabi spoke of this moment as the crossing, when knowledge ceases to be information and becomes illumination. When knowing turns into being. Knowledge begins as sound, but it ends as stillness. It is born in the noise of thought, but matures in the quiet of understanding. The heart that has truly learned does not speak more. It listens more deeply. In silence, the echoes of truth find room to expand. Every seeker begins with questions, but the closer he draws to the source, the fewer words remain. The mouth that once demanded answers falls silent in awe. It is not ignorance that quiets him, but realization that what he sought to name was the very presence now gazing through him. When knowledge touches silence, it transforms from possession into participation. The knower is no longer separate from the known. The wall between thinker and truth dissolves, and the real knows itself through the heart that has ceased to speak. The danger of words lies in their pride. They believe they can capture the infinite. But words are only travelers. They arrive exhausted at the gate of silence and bow. Only there does understanding begin. For silence is the first language of the divine. To cross the line of silence is not to abandon knowledge, but to complete it. The intellect must kneel before the heart, and both must bow before presence. Knowledge is the ladder, silence is the arrival. When you climb too long, you forget that the height itself was meant to end in stillness. Silence does not reject knowledge, it refines it. It distills meaning from thought until only essence remains. What is left is pure awareness, the naked truth behind every word ever spoken. In this state, even the wisest teacher becomes a listener. The scholar gathers information. The mystic dissolves into understanding. The first builds libraries. The second becomes one. For Ibn Arabi, true learning is not about what the mind collects, but what the self surrenders. When the heart becomes empty, it turns luminous. Knowledge that is not passed through silence remains incomplete. It becomes noise, impressive to the ear but hollow to the soul. The wise therefore retreat not to escape the world, but to hear it more clearly. For when one listens from silence, even wind carries revelation. The line between knowledge and silence is thin, and few recognize when they've crossed it. Some stand before it and argue. Others step across and vanish into peace. The first are celebrated by men, the second are remembered by eternity. Silence is the guardian of the sacred. It keeps what words might profane. Not every truth is meant to be spoken. Not every vision shared. The mystic learns to protect the real with reverent quiet. For revelation loses its fragrance when handled carelessly. When knowledge ripens into silence, it no longer seeks to prove. It becomes self-evident, like light needing no argument to justify its glow. In this stage, wisdom ceases to persuade and begins to radiate. The knower himself becomes the evidence. The line of silence is where knowledge bows to love. The intellect, having reached its limit, yields to devotion. It realizes that logic can map the stars, but not the warmth of their light. What remains unspoken becomes more powerful than everything said. Silence is not emptiness, but presence without noise. It is awareness without interference, seeing without naming. In that stillness, knowledge stops moving outward and begins to spiral inward, descending into the core of being where all opposites dissolve. When one crosses this sacred line, the need to teach fades. The true sage does not speak to be heard, but to remind. His words are not explanations, but reflections, like moonlight showing the presence of the unseen sun. The real hides within silence, not to withhold, but to reveal differently. Every pause, every breath between thoughts, holds a doorway. The heart that listens long enough will find that the truth was speaking all along, not in words but in being. Knowledge without silence becomes arrogance. Silence without knowledge becomes emptiness. Only together do they form wisdom. Ibn Arabi reminds us that silence is not the opposite of speech. It is its root, its origin, and its return. To know something deeply is to know that you cannot hold it. The seeker learns that understanding is not ownership. It is alignment. True wisdom does not grasp. It harmonizes, and harmony speaks only in silence. There is a sweetness in the quiet after revelation. It feels like dawn, light spreading without sound, warmth without flame. This is the heart's natural state. Once the noise of seeking has subsided, every realization ends, not in applause, but in stillness. In the presence of the real, silence becomes worship. The tongue falls silent, the mind bows, and the soul listens. It is here that knowledge fulfills its purpose, not to speak of God, but to dissolve into His nearness. Silence teaches without voice. It shows that truth needs no defender, no repetition. The world hums with divine speech. Already, the wise simply tune themselves to its frequency. Each sound, each shadow becomes a verse recited by existence itself. The crossing into silence is not withdrawal, but union. The seeker no longer distinguishes between inner and outer, teacher and student, speech and silence. Everything becomes one conversation between the real and itself, echoing through the heart. The mystic realizes that silence was never the absence of knowledge, but its perfection. To cross into it is not to lose understanding, but to find what lies beyond understanding, the awareness that contains both sound and stillness. When knowledge crosses the line of silence, it does not vanish. It shines brighter, freed from the prison of expression. The heart becomes its vessel, the breath its language, and the silence its eternal song. There is a fire that does not burn, yet consumes everything unreal. It is the flame of divine knowing, the spark that was placed within the heart before the world began. Ibn Arabi called it the fire of existence, the light of the real, seeking to know itself through creation. Once kindled, no wind of doubt can extinguish it. This fire is not made of heat or smoke. It is woven from awareness itself. It ignites in the soul when the illusion of distance collapses. The seeker feels it not as pain, but as awakening, an unbearable tenderness that dissolves every boundary between lover and beloved. The fire does not belong to the seeker. The seeker belongs to it. It burns away pride, fear, and falsehood, leaving only what is true. Its touch is both mercy and destruction. Mercy for the soul, destruction for the veil. What survives its flame is not the self, but the essence that was never apart. The fire flickers as longing. It begins as a quiet ache, a hunger for meaning too vast for words. But once it finds a heart willing to surrender, it becomes a living blaze. Every act of remembrance feeds it. Every breath of awareness fans its glow. Those who carry this fire walk differently. The world mistakes their stillness for calm, yet inside them burns a radiance that refuses to rest. They have seen what cannot be unseen, and so they live as both flame and ash, illuminated, yet emptied. The fire cannot be contained by thought. The intellect tries to define it and is reduced to smoke. It cannot be explained, for explanation requires distance, and this fire erases the space between knower and known. To describe it is to misunderstand it. This flame is not punishment. It is purification. It does not destroy the heart. It refines it. Under its heat, hardness becomes tenderness. Resistance becomes surrender. The heart learns that to burn for the beloved is the only way to shine. Some run from this fire, fearing its intensity. They seek safety in shadows, forgetting that the shadows themselves are cast by its light. But those who trust it are transformed. The flame reveals that the only danger lies in remaining unlit. Ibn Arabi said that love is the fire through which the real reveals himself. It is the power that set the stars in motion, the warmth that gave breath to being, to encounter. It is to stand before the secret of creation, the infinite yearning to witness its own beauty through the mirror of the soul. The fire that could not be contained burns quietly in all things. It flickers in the dawn's first light, in the sigh of the wind, in the depth of silence. Even stones carry its memory. The universe itself is its smoke, the visible trace of an unseen flame. To carry this fire is to live between worlds. It consumes illusion yet sustains existence. The mystic learns that the soul is not separate from the flame. It is made of it. What we call self is merely the wick through which the real burns. This fire speaks without voice. It teaches not through words, but through transformation. It says, "Be empty, and I will fill you. Be still, and I will move you." Its command is gentle, but its truth is absolute. Those who hear it never forget its soundless sound. When this fire awakens fully, there is no returning to the sleep of ignorance. The heart glows from within, and even sorrow becomes sacred. Pain no longer feels like punishment, but as proof that the real is near, reshaping, refining, revealing. The fire that cannot be contained is the secret behind longing. It is what makes the heart restless even in comfort, what keeps the soul awake even in darkness. It whispers through every desire, saying, "It is not this you seek, but the one behind all things." Every prophet, every saint, every seeker was lit by this same flame. It moved them beyond reason and fear. It is the fire of remembrance, ancient, inexhaustible, and alive. When it touches the heart, time itself catches fire. This fire does not destroy the world. It transfigures it. It turns suffering into song, despair into devotion. Wherever it burns, it reveals beauty. Not the beauty of perfection, but the beauty of truth, uncovered. The ashes it leaves are sacred, the scent eternal. To resist this fire is to suffer. To surrender is to shine. Those who fight it are consumed by confusion. Those who accept it are consumed by love. In its light, even annihilation becomes bliss, for it reveals that what was lost was never real. The fire has no color, yet it colors everything. It gives gold its glow, dawn its blush, and hearts their warmth. It is the unseen painter of existence, the living ink with which the Beloved writes his name across creation. When the heart becomes fully flame, it no longer distinguishes between joy and pain. Both feel like heat from the same source. This is the station of surrender, where even suffering is recognized as mercy, wearing another mask. The fire teaches through paradox. The more it burns, the gentler it becomes. The more it consumes, the more it gives. It destroys nothing but the illusion of separation, revealing that the one who burns and the fire itself are one. This fire has no beginning, for it was lit before time began. It will not end, for it burns beyond the reach of death. It is the eternal yes of existence, the breath that said be and never stopped saying it. Those who bear its flame become luminous to others. Their words ignite hearts, their silence heals. They do not preach. They radiate. The real speaks through them without sound. Light moving through light. The fire that cannot be contained is not a secret to be discovered, but a truth to be remembered. It is the origin of awe, the heartbeat of devotion. It calls every soul home, whispering, "Return to what you have always been." Flame recognizing flame. When all is said and burned, only light remains. The fire does not end by dying. It ends by becoming everything. The seeker dissolves into its brilliance, and in that final glow realizes the truth. There was never a fire outside, only the infinite burning quietly within. There is a silence beneath creation where sound begins, a hidden current from which existence flows. Ibn Arabi called it the secret speech of the unseen, whispers from the realm that gives life to every form. It is not heard by the ear, but by the heart, for only stillness can translate what has no language. The hidden realm is not elsewhere. It is the depth of what already is. It breathes beneath every surface, shaping the visible from within. What we call reality is only its echo, the outward murmur of an inner voice. The wise do not seek to reach it. They listen for it in everything. These whispers arrive between moments where time hesitates. They slip through the cracks of perception like light between leaves. When the mind grows silent, they become clear, not as words, but as knowing. The heart feels them before thought can name them. The real speaks constantly, but we are too loud to hear. Noise has become our veil, thought our distraction, Yet when remembrance softens the mind, the whispers rise like mist. They remind us that existence is not a collection of things, but a conversation between being and love. Each whisper carries a different tone. Some come as peace, others as longing, others still as pain. Yet all are the same voice. For the beloved speaks through opposites, teaching the soul that every emotion is a dialect of divine presence. The mystic learns that revelation is not confined to holy words. The desert wind is a verse, the silence between heartbeats a sacred name. Every raindrop repeats a message that has no end. I am nearer than what you call near. To hear these whispers, one must forget the desire to control meaning. The hidden realm does not speak to the intellect, but through it. It bends understanding until humility blossoms, and the seeker learns to listen without expectation, hearing not to know, but to be known. The whispers are not new, they have always been there. We are the ones who left the quiet where they live. They are the language of origin, older than speech, older than the stars. They do not come from outside, but awaken from within, reminding the soul of its homeland. Sometimes they come in dreams, where logic sleeps and symbols awaken. Sometimes they come in grief, when the heart cracks open wide enough for truth to enter. The real chooses the softest places, the broken, the still, the patient, to reveal the soundless voice of being. To listen is to return. Every whisper draws the soul inward, back through layers of illusion toward the center. There, words dissolve into awareness, and hearing becomes union. The listener and the sound become one silence, breathing itself. These whispers are not commands, but invitations. They do not demand belief, only attention. They say, look again, beneath the scene lies the seer. Beneath the seer, the seen, both are one. The heart that understands this has crossed the threshold of duality. The hidden realm does not shout because it does not need to. Its truth sustains all that exists, whether we notice it or not. The purpose of hearing is not discovery but remembrance, to recall what the soul already knows but has forgotten in the noise of becoming. Each whisper reshapes the world a little. What once seemed solid becomes fluid. What once seemed distant draws near. The seeker begins to perceive the shimmering web that connects all things, not through sight, but through subtle awareness, like feeling warmth from an unseen flame. Ibn Arabi said the hidden realm is closer than the breath, yet deeper than eternity. It is where form returns to meaning, and meaning returns to silence. To dwell there is to live between creation and creator, where distinction is only a gentle play. The whispers do not seek to reveal secrets, but to awaken intimacy. They tell the soul, you are not a visitor in existence. You are its expression. To hear this is to lose the sense of exile and remember that every heartbeat is God remembering himself through you. The hidden realm teaches that reality is layered like light, passing through glass. Each surface reflects a different hue, yet the essence remains one. The more transparent the heart, the purer the reflection. In this way, even shadow becomes a kind of shining. When one listens deeply enough, even silence becomes full. It hums with presence, vibrating like a string too fine to see. That vibration is the pulse of being, the eternal yes of creation, renewing itself with every breath. The whispers sometimes hide behind contradiction. They appear as paradox to the mind, but clarity to the heart. The unseen delights in teaching through opposites, for only when the soul surrenders its need for order does it taste the freedom of unity. Hearing from the hidden realm changes the listener forever. The ordinary becomes extraordinary. The mundane becomes sacred. Every motion, every pause, every fleeting moment reveals a secret correspondence, as if the entire world were whispering, "I am." The more one listens, the less one speaks. Words begin to feel heavy, clumsy, compared to the elegance of silence. The mystic becomes quiet, not from withdrawal but from awe, knowing that even a breath can echo eternity, if taken with awareness. Sometimes the whispers vanish, leaving only silence. Yet even this absence is a message, the real teaching the seeker that the voice was never other than his own. The listener and the speaker have always been one melody, divided only by attention. The hidden realm does not demand entry. It welcomes recognition. It waits behind every perception, like light behind the eye. To find it, one must look without seeking, hear without listening, and be without trying to become. And when the heart finally learns this stillness, the whispers no longer come and go, they remain. The entire world hums with the soundless speech of the beloved. The trees, the stars, the spaces between words, all reveal the same truth. There is only one speaking through all forms. The seeker realizes that the hidden realm was never hidden, and the whispers were never distant. It was the noise of thought that made silence seem far. When thought quiets, revelation becomes ordinary, and the ordinary becomes divine. There are visions that do not arrive as light, but as fire. When the veil lifts too soon, the heart trembles beneath what it beholds. Ibn Arabi warned that truth is merciful, but mercy can be overwhelming if the soul has not been prepared. To see beyond illusion is both a gift and a responsibility, for once the eye opens, it can never again pretend to be blind. Seeing the real is not the same as understanding it. The intellect shatters when it tries to hold what is infinite. It is like trying to carry the ocean in one's hands. The mystic learns that knowledge must bow before vision, and vision must dissolve into humility. Only then does seeing become safe. When the unseen becomes visible, the world no longer looks the same. Every shadow gleams. Every breath carries meaning. The seeker begins to live between worlds, no longer content with appearances, yet unable to abandon them. The danger lies in mistaking the vision for the goal, forgetting that even light is a veil before the source. The first shock of unveiling feels like awakening from a dream, but soon the dream of the world begins to ache. Familiar things lose their solidity. Familiar names lose their meaning. The heart must learn to live without the comfort of certainty, for the real dismantles every false foundation. Those who see too soon may drown in wonder. Revelation is not meant to be devoured all at once. It must be tasted slowly, in reverence. To see the unity behind all forms is to stand where distinctions vanish. And if the heart clings to identity, it burns. The vision demands surrender, not curiosity. Ibn Arabi taught that the unseen is not hidden by cruelty, but by compassion. The divine conceals itself out of mercy, for unprepared eyes would be blinded by the sheer brilliance of reality. To see beyond the veil without readiness is like gazing at the sun without eyelids. It dazzles, then destroys. The danger of vision lies not in what is seen, but in what is lost. The familiar dissolves. The self begins to vanish. One must die before dying, not in body, but in perception. The seeker who resists this death will feel torn between heaven and earth, belonging to neither. When truth reveals itself fully, there is no place left to hide. Every thought becomes transparent, every motive exposed. It is a mirror that cannot be broken. The heart must learn to love its own reflection within the infinite, to recognize that even imperfection is an aspect of the whole. Those who walk the path of vision often carry solitude as their shadow. The language of the unseen has few translators. What the heart perceives cannot be explained without distortion, and so the mystic becomes silent, not from secrecy, but from compassion, to protect others from seeing before they are ready. Seeing the real means losing the world as you once knew it, but it also means finding the world as it truly is. The danger is in attachment to light, to form, to revelation itself. When the soul stops at any stage of seeing, it mistakes reflection for source and worships the image instead of the truth behind it. The unveiled heart perceives unity, even in conflict. This can be both peace and torment. To see beauty in what others call tragedy, to recognize order within chaos, requires the courage to live without judgment. Such vision frees, but also isolates, for few can understand love that embraces everything. The mystic who has seen cannot return unchanged. He becomes a living paradox, detached yet compassionate, silent yet overflowing with meaning. The real has shown its face, and now every face becomes holy. The danger is not madness. It is the unbearable intimacy of knowing. Once the veil is lifted, illusion loses its flavor. The pleasures of the world taste thin. The noise of ambition fades. This detachment is not rejection, but transformation. The heart does not despise the world. It begins to love it as part of the infinite mirror reflecting the one. The danger of vision is also its beauty. To see that everything is God is to lose the privilege of ignorance. The mystic can no longer hate, no longer divide, no longer escape. Every act becomes worship, every encounter revelation. This is freedom, but also fire, for love without distance consumes all distinction. In the beginning, the unseen reveals itself gently through dreams, intuition, moments of stillness. But once the threshold is crossed, there is no return to ordinary sight. The heart becomes an eye that cannot close. It sees truth even in its own shadows. There are nights when the weight of vision feels unbearable. The heart cries to unsee, to rest again in forgetfulness. But mercy whispers, you are not meant to carry the light. You are meant to become transparent enough for it to pass through. Then peace returns, not as relief, but as surrender. The danger of seeing lies in the temptation to speak. Revelation is sacred, and language cannot hold it without spilling. Many have been broken by the attempt to translate the infinite into human form. True seers, therefore, guard their silence, letting their lives speak where words cannot. When vision matures, it no longer seeks to describe what it sees. It simply is. The seer becomes like a clear sky, allowing the sun to shine without claiming its light. In this stillness, the danger dissolves, for the one who sees and the seen are no longer two. Every unveiling carries a cost. The heart must exchange comfort for clarity, certainty for wonder. But this price is not loss. It is liberation. To see what cannot be unseen is to step beyond duality, to dwell where both blindness and sight are gifts from the same hand. The real does not reveal to wound. It reveals to awaken. What feels like fire is actually mercy reshaping perception. Vision is not given for pride, but for remembrance, to remind the soul that it was never separate, never forgotten, never lost. Seeing the unseen is not the end of the path, but its beginning. Once the eyes open, the true journey begins, not outward, but inward, toward the point where seeing becomes being. Beyond that, there is no observer and no object, only awareness aware of itself. The danger passes when love becomes the lens. The heart that sees through love cannot be blinded, for love softens even the fiercest light. In that tenderness, the mystic walks safely through illumination, carrying the fire of vision as warmth rather than burden. And when all seeing is complete, when every veil has been both lifted and loved, the seer disappears into the seen. The world remains, but now it glows with meaning. There is no longer danger, only depth, the peace of knowing that what cannot be unseen was never outside at all. The scholar walks with books in his hands. The mystic walks with burning silence in his heart. One seeks truth through knowledge, the other through surrender. Both travel toward the same horizon, but their paths diverge where intellect reaches its limit, at the edge of understanding, where reason bows to revelation. The scholar studies the words of truth. The mystic becomes the space where truth speaks. Knowledge can describe the path, but only experience can walk it. The mind observes from a distance, the heart dissolves into the view. When learning transforms into being, the scholar's map bursts into flame. There is a sacred moment when thought falters before mystery. The intellect, weary from its search, finally admits that the real cannot be measured. It is in that surrender that the mystic is born, not by abandoning knowledge, but by realizing its insufficiency before the infinite. The scholar asks, "What is God?" The mystic whispers, "What is not?" The difference is not in belief, but in sight. The scholar examines creation. The mystic listens to it. Every atom becomes a verse, every silence a sermon. The book closes, and the heart opens. When the scholar stops, the mystic continues, but not by walking farther. He steps inward through the gate of unknowing, into the presence where words vanish. It is not ignorance he enters, but awareness too vast for thought. What was concept becomes communion. Ibn Arabi said, "The intellect is a lamp, but love is the sun." The scholar's light guides through the night of confusion, but when dawn comes, the lamp grows dim. The mystic does not discard the lamp. He places it gently aside, for the greater light has risen. The scholar seeks to define. The mystic seeks to dissolve. One builds knowledge, the other burns in it. The fire of love consumes the structure of thought, until only essence remains, pure, radiant, wordless. In that fire, distinction between knower and known disappears. Knowledge belongs to the mind, understanding belongs to the heart. The scholar learns by study, the mystic learns by surrender. Both are necessary, but one must lead to the other. Without the scholar, the mystic risks delusion. Without the mystic, the scholar risks dryness. Where the scholar stops, humility begins. He realizes that all his learning has only prepared him to see how little can truly be known. In that awareness, he becomes silent. And in silence, he begins to hear the hidden music of the real. The mystic reads the same scriptures as the scholar, but in a different language. The words do not point outward, but inward. Every verse becomes a mirror, reflecting not doctrine, but presence. Revelation ceases to be history and becomes heartbeat. The scholar studies creation as a text. The mystic reads it as a face. He sees the divine signature in every curve, every color, every motion. For him, there is no secular, no sacred, only the endless unveiling of the One through countless forms. The scholar stops at explanation. The mystic enters experience. To explain is to separate cause from effect. To experience is to realize they are one. The mystic does not analyze the light. He stands within it until he too becomes luminous. The danger for the scholar is pride. The danger for the mystic is illusion. The first may mistake knowledge for possession. The second may mistake feeling for truth. But when both merge, intellect purified by love and love guided by clarity, the human being reflects the balance of heaven and earth. The scholar collects words like jewels, but the mystic melts them into light. He knows that truth cannot be stored. It must flow. The moment he tries to keep it, it fades. So he walks empty-handed, radiant with what cannot be owned. In the world of the scholar, the real is a subject of study. In the world of the mystic, the real is the only reality. There is no observer, no observed, only the dance of awareness with itself. This is the crossing point where learning turns into love. The scholar debates, the mystic listens. Debate refines intellect, but listening refines being. The mystic's silence is not absence of thought, but presence of attention. Through it he hears what cannot be spoken, the echo of the divine within all things. The mystic begins where the scholar ends, at the recognition that truth cannot be grasped, only received. The hands of the mind must open before they can hold the unholdable. In that openness, learning transforms into illumination. Every great scholar carries a mystic hidden within him, waiting for the moment when knowledge bows to awe. And every mystic carries a scholar within, the clarity that guards him from confusion. Wisdom is not the triumph of one over the other, but their marriage. When the scholar stops, the mystic kneels. He gathers the ashes of reason and builds from them a new altar. There, knowledge becomes devotion, and the pursuit of truth becomes the practice of love. The mind surrenders to the heart, and the heart surrenders to the infinite. The mystic does not reject the scholar's path. He fulfills it. Every verse studied, every question asked, every theory formed was the ladder leading to this silence. The scholar climbs. The mystic steps off, not to fall, but to fly. Where the scholar sees complexity, the mystic sees simplicity. The more one knows, the more one discovers that everything leads back to one source. Multiplicity is only the mirror of unity. What seems scattered becomes whole in the eye of love. The mystic is not against thought. He transcends it. He uses the mind as a tool, not as a throne. He knows that thought is the finger pointing toward the moon, not the moon itself. The scholar studies the finger. The mystic gazes at the light it reflects. In the mystic's silence, knowledge does not end. It expands beyond measure. The boundaries of intellect dissolve into the ocean of presence. What remains is not ignorance but wisdom unspoken, the kind that shines through being, not through speech. And when the scholar stops completely, he does not vanish. He transforms. The book in his hand becomes the mirror of his heart. The question becomes the answer. In that stillness, he too becomes a mystic, the one who has learned enough to know that knowing was never the goal. There is a secret not meant to be found, but to be remembered. It does not belong to the world of discovery, for it hides within the seeker himself. Ibn Arabi said that the true secret of existence is not what the seeker unveils. It is what unveils the seeker. In chasing the mystery, he becomes the mystery's mirror. The journey begins outward among signs and symbols, but every step eventually folds back toward the heart. What seemed distant begins to look familiar, and what was hidden begins to feel like home. The seeker realizes he was never following a path. He was tracing the pattern of his own being. The real does not conceal truth behind veils to keep us away, but to teach us how to look. Every veil is a reflection, showing the seeker what he still holds onto. When he stops trying to tear it away, the veil itself becomes transparent, revealing that he was never apart from what he sought. The secret cannot be stolen or learned. It is not an object, not an idea, not even a revelation. It is awareness itself, the light that allows every revelation to be seen. To find it is to vanish as a seeker and reappear as seeing itself. The heart believes it is chasing knowledge. It moves from teacher to teacher, book to book, image to image. But slowly, each answer becomes a mirror, showing only the face of the one asking. The more he searches, the clearer it becomes. The real was never elsewhere. The secret reveals itself only when the seeker stops demanding it. It cannot be captured by thought or ritual, for it reveals through being, not belief. The heart must soften, until it can no longer distinguish between asking and listening, between seeking and surrendering. To know this secret is to lose the illusion of distance. The seeker no longer says, "I am searching for God," but God is searching through me. The roles reverse. The seeker becomes the sought, the mirror through which the real recognizes its own reflection. This secret cannot be held. It holds you. It rearranges perception until even the self becomes transparent. What once felt like identity dissolves into presence, and what was called God ceases to feel external. The ocean no longer calls to the drop. The drop awakens to itself as the ocean. The danger of this secret lies in its simplicity. The mind, trained to pursue complexity, cannot believe that what it seeks is already within. It continues to wander, refusing the stillness that reveals everything. The real hides not in mystery, but in plain sight, too close to be noticed. Every seeker carries the secret from the beginning, yet few recognize its voice. It speaks softly, through intuition, longing, and wonder. It does not shout, because it does not compete. The secret waits, patient as eternity, until the seeker grows quiet enough to hear his own echo. The secret does not reveal information. It reveals transformation. It does not tell the seeker who God is but who he is not. Every illusion stripped away is a letter from the divine, spelling out the truth, that there has only ever been one self speaking through many forms. Ibn Arabi said the real hides in every heart, but the heart must become clear enough to reflect. The secret does not descend. It awakens. It does not arrive from above, but rises from within. When awareness recognizes itself, that is the unveiling. The seeker prays for signs, yet each sign points back to the one who asks. The secret smiles through coincidence, through silence, through sorrow. It shapes the events of life not to punish or reward, but to polish. Every experience becomes a hand, cleaning the mirror of perception. When the heart becomes still, the secret stirs. It does not announce itself, but glows faintly, like dawn behind mountains. The seeker feels it before he knows it. The moment he tries to define it, it slips away, not out of cruelty, but because truth cannot survive confinement. The secret is not revealed in words, though words may hint at it. It is not found in silence, though silence prepares the way. It reveals itself when both speech and silence lose meaning, and only presence remains. The seeker vanishes, the real breathes through him. The more one searches for the secret, the further it seems. But when the search collapses into awe, revelation dawns. The secret is not at the end of the path. It is the path, and the walker, and the destination. To realize this is to awaken from the illusion of seeking. The mystic learns that the real never hides, only the mind does. The secret is not what is concealed, but what is overlooked. To look without desire is to see without obstruction. Then what once appeared ordinary shines with the brilliance of the eternal. This secret does not arrive with triumph, but with tenderness. It breaks no walls. It dissolves them. It does not strike the heart. It blooms within it. When it reveals itself, the seeker weeps, not from sadness or joy, but from the realization that he has never been alone. The secret's revelation is not an end, but a beginning. It marks the birth of awareness into its own reflection. The mystic ceases to travel outward, for the journey has turned inward. Every breath becomes remembrance. Every moment, revelation. When the secret reveals the seeker, even the word seeker disappears. The distinction between finder and found collapses. The real was never discovered. It was simply recognized. The mirror was not showing something new. It was cleaning the dust of forgetting. This unveiling cannot be shared, only lived. Those who know it often speak in symbols, not to hide, but to protect the unready. The truth cannot be forced upon anyone. It must bloom naturally. The flower of understanding opens only when watered by longing. The seeker's greatest mistake is believing he must deserve the secret, but the real does not choose worthiness. It chooses readiness. The moment one surrenders the idea of achievement, the veil lifts. The gift has always been given. Only the eyes were closed. The secret does not end ignorance by revealing knowledge. It ends it by revealing oneness. There is nothing to know, only something to become. When this dawn breaks, even the shadows glow, for the light no longer comes from outside. It radiates from within. In the final silence, the seeker realizes that the secret has been watching him all along. It was never he who sought, but the real seeking to see itself. The revelation is not of truth, but of intimacy. The knowing that the knower and the known have never been two. And so the secret that reveals the seeker does not end the story. It begins it anew. The world remains, but now every moment shines with meaning. The mirror no longer hides or reflects. It becomes invisible, and only light remains, infinite, aware, and free. The truth was never forbidden because it was false. It was hidden because the world was not ready to see itself within it. Ibn Arabi's secret was not a statement, but a mirror. Whoever looked into it found the boundaries of self begin to fade. The danger was never in the teaching, but in awakening too soon. Yet the time always comes when silence must open into speech, and the hidden light reveals itself through those who can bear its fire. This is not a secret to be understood. It is a truth to be lived quietly in the heart that remembers.